This is 8 Minute Climate Fix, the podcast helping you understand the energy and climate challenge in just a few minutes. I'm your host, Paul Schuster. Climate change is starting to cost the global economy money, real gobs of money. And while many institutions have been crying out about the effect that climate change will eventually have on their supply chains and end markets, there's one industry that is already beset by climate activity, that of insurance. Global insurers are looking at climate change through the pragmatic eye of financial responsibility and aren't liking what they see. And we're starting to see these behemoths pulling out of regions and markets, refusing to back certain projects. They are a canary in the coal mine for the global financial industry and, broadly speaking, the rest of the world. Today, let's unpack what's happening in insurance. 8 minutes. It's how long it takes the sun's rays to hit Earth, or about how long my son will help me with the spring yard cleanup this weekend, before going back inside to play Minecraft. Let's get it on. The global catastrophe insurance market took a beating in 2025. The first half of the year alone saw global insured losses of over $100 billion. The LA wildfires alone caused almost $40 billion in losses. And Swiss Re estimates that losses in 2026 could be somewhere between $148 billion and $320 billion, depending on how bad weather damage can get. Catastrophic climate events are not only getting more frequent, but they're having a bigger economic impact each time. Insurers are the first ones impacted by these changes. Don't tell them that climate change isn't real, because they are making decisions affecting hundreds of billions of dollars because of these changing conditions. For instance, some major private insurers are starting to exit critical markets. State Farm and Allstate have stopped writing new property policies in high-risk states such as California or Florida. Florida has been so hit that the property insurance market was in a full-on crisis from 2019 to 2024, as most private insurers just completely gave up on the state, having been burned by high-dollar losses due to climate-enhanced hurricanes. Those firms that remained hiked premiums by over 40%, and the state's public insurer of last resort, the Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, saw their underwritten policies soar to over 1.4 million. The cost of an average policy in Florida these days, try over $15,000, which is ridiculous compared to the national average of only around $3,000. But as anyone who has ever applied for a mortgage will tell you, you need that insurance before a bank hands over hundreds of thousands of dollars to help you get that new dream home, which means that homeowners suck it up and pay. But it also shows that those climate decisions are already starting to cascade into the broader financial market. Why are costs rising so quickly? It's easy to point to the historical disasters, but the answer is a bit more nuanced. First, it's become really difficult for companies to model catastrophic risk scenarios because old historical models don't work very well in this new climate-changed world. If you can't model it, well, then it becomes really tough to underwrite that risk with any reasonable certainty as to a proper price. Second, the reinsurance market is getting socked from all angles. Reinsurance is where all those insurance policies get syndicated and bundled together in order to diversify the risk and ensure that the financial mechanisms are there to cover off on the few policies that do need to be paid out on. But reinsurers are having difficulty diversifying their exposure under climate change. Disasters globally are increasingly correlated due to climate activity. Wildfires, Atlantic hurricanes, Australian cyclones, all in the same year. And then lastly, global tariffs and lingering inflation has made the costs to rebuild that much higher. Add to that an increasing density of homes and commercial buildings in vulnerable areas, and it's a mixture for disaster. The risk is that these increased premiums and increasing costs of disaster cover will lead to an insurance death spiral. Insurers raise prices, policyholders begin to drop out, especially those who think that they're lower risk. Fewer policyholders need to pay for higher costs of disasters, so premiums need to rise. And then there's the equity dimension, where home equity accounts for more than half of the total wealth of most families. Losing an uninsured home isn't just a housing problem, it's a wealth destruction event. Climate change is having a direct effect on the insurance market. It's literally the one market that cannot pretend that the risk isn't there. When insurers exit a market, they aren't doing so based on altruistic beliefs or any form of green agenda. They do so specifically because the increased risks due to climate change have become unfinanceable. The solution? Well, there are some things we can do around the edges, such as enact regulatory reforms so that insurers can match premiums to actual risk. State backstops can tap into the taxpayer pool for support. And insurers can start to require hardening of the physical assets that they are underwriting in order to lessen potential repairs. But maybe the hardest solution is also the most obvious. Stop building in disaster-prone areas such as along the Florida coast. As with much that we talk about on this podcast, there may need to be a behavioral change here too. Insurers are the canary in the coal mine for climate impact. It should tell us something that the people whose job it is to price risk are declining to cover it. What does that tell us about the places where we choose to live and the infrastructure we're choosing to build? I'm Paul Schuster, and this has been your 8 Minutes.